Hey guys, how are you doing? It's been a while since I did a vlog, so I just thought I'll quickly do one today. It's nice and sunny out, not too much wind, so I just thought I'll take a ride and talk about something that one of my buddies that just started riding asked me about. So, I mean, most people that just started riding normally would get told um, to buy a bike that's got a lower cc range, so like 150. Some people get 250s or 300s, um, and that's a good thing. I mean, that's a good thing, largely because of the fact that as a new rider, lower cc bikes are less forgiving when you make a mistake. The problem with that obviously is that as you learn to ride and as your skill develops over time, you tend to get bored with the bike because then it doesn't have as much power as you would like it to have. So I mean that comes with time, and then you have to sell the bike. Um, for most people, they'll have to sell the bike before they can buy a bigger bike. Um, Mostly because it's not bikes are not necessarily cheap. They used to be probably back in the day, but nowadays they're not, as more and more people are riding. So what I said to him was, and I mean, I know some people are not going to agree with this, but this is my personal feeling, and from my experience as well. It just comes down to how disciplined you are. If you're a disciplined person and you're going to ride within your skill limit, within what you're comfortable with, where you are with your riding journey, then by all means, go for the bike that you actually want to buy. That saves you having to try and get your money back from buying a bike that has got lower CCs, um, and potentially having to sit with it a bit longer than what you would have liked to, and also potentially having to shell out more money for the bike that you actually want once you've developed your skill. But again, this only works if you are an extremely disciplined person. So if you're the kind of person that like loves speed, loves to drive fast if you can drive, and you're just all about speed, then that's most likely not going to work for you because you probably are going to kill yourself. But if you are, on the other hand, a disciplined person and you've got enough patience to wait out your riding skills being developed over time, then by all means, go for the bike you want, regardless of how much power it's got, and you should be fine. I personally started on a litre bike. Um, some people might think that's dumb, but I know myself. I am a disciplined person, or at least I think I am. I try to be as much as I can. Um, and I knew that I was not going to do anything crazy. I wasn't going to start riding at 120 kilometers an hour when I just started learning how to ride. I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to try and max out the bike to its full potential just when I started learning to ride. So I got myself the bike that I wanted to get at the time. Well, it wasn't really the bike I wanted to get because I wanted to buy a Hayabusa, but I couldn't afford one at the time. So I got a 1000, Jigsaw 1000 at the time, and yeah, that worked for me. An older model, obviously, so it was a bit cheaper and worked with my budget at the time. But when I was able to afford the Hayabusa, I eventually bought a Gen 1 Hayabusa, and shortly after that, I bought a Gen 2 Hayabusa, and then I bought a ZX14, and then I bought another Gen 2 Hayabusa. So I suppose I've mostly been riding high-powered bikes. Even though during the time that I was learning to ride, I actually learned my first class with something what's similar to like an actual bike school type class, supervised with instructors and so on. I started learning the first couple of days on a 150, and then by the end of the week I was on a 250. And then only when I was comfortable with that, even though I had already bought my Jigsaw 1000, I never rode it until probably about 2 weeks later, when I was comfortable on the 150, 250cc bikes. The reason for that was because I first wanted to get a feel of the throttle, because that's mostly where the problem lies, is throttle control. I first wanted to get a feel of the throttle. I didn't want to try with everything else that had to be done, like gear changes and looking around. I didn't want to mistakenly have an incident with my throttle on the bike that had 1000cc on it. So I chose to keep my bike at home and use the bike that was provided by the training institution, which worked for me. After a couple of lessons over a week, I was comfortable riding my bike, but then I rode it only within where I stayed. So it was a security estate, so I could just ride safely on roads, but they were private roads. So the speed, I think the speed limit was about 20 kilometers an hour or something, because it was an estate and there were kids around. So I could safely ride there and get used to the feel of the throttle on the Jigsaw 1000. However, I didn't ride on public roads until after the second week, when I was comfortable. And that was because I went out with one of the instructors on the 250, and we did a couple of sessions on the public road when I was comfortable riding. So if you're going to take that approach, then and you are a disciplined person, because the fact that you've been riding and you're comfortable over a week or a 2 week period doesn't mean that you can actually control the power of the 1000cc bike. So if you think you can be disciplined, then you can buy yourself the bike you want. At least in my opinion, if you are disciplined, buy yourself the bike you want. It will save you a bit of headache later on, and just make sure that each time you get on that bike, you know that the bike is way above your riding skill at the time. So you take it easy, and over time you will get better and better and better, to the point where you can actually masterfully handle that bike. And I probably shouldn't say masterfully, because for me personally, I've been riding for many years, and I'm still learning. There's always something to learn by watching people and learning from people that have been riding even longer than you have been riding. So I don't think you can ever get to the point where you say, you've learned everything that there is to know. There's always something to learn. At least that's my attitude in life. There's always something to learn, so you should be open to that. But yeah, if you can be disciplined, definitely. If you can't be disciplined, then it's worth it buying the first bike and having the bike that you actually want the first time around. On the other hand, if you are not that disciplined and you feel even in the slightest that you might be tempted to open the throttle and experiment with the power of the bike before you are ready, then by all means do not buy a bike that is more than 300 cc's until such time that you're comfortable to handle that. I would even say 150. If you know that you are not disciplined, that is the best and safest approach for you. Okay, so eventually my friend went with a 300cc BMW because he felt that for him, he probably would be safer on there for now. So that's what he did. But that was his choice. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having a litre bike, or even a Hayabusa for that matter. I know somebody that had the Hayabusa as their first bike, and they're still alive 20 years later. So, I mean, yeah, it comes down to discipline. If you're not disciplined, don't do it. So that's it. See you in the next one, and gonna continue enjoying the roads and the windless weather in Cape Town today. Ciao.